Keep chugging along in our journey through the MCU Phase 1 as we get to the fifth and final setup film before we get to the big Avengers movie. And of course, the final piece of the puzzle that is the God of Thunder, Thor of Asgard. Yeah, whatever. The Thor movie. I'm gonna throw off the bat. I don't like Thor. I'm not a Thor fan. I can care less about Thor. Uh, he ain't my favorite of the bunch. I think he's kind of bleh. Um, to tell you the truth, I only own the movies because if it's part of the collection. Because without him, the collection will feel very incomplete. Um, this movie particular was nothing all that great. It was okay for what it was. Uh, could have had more potential to be better than it was, but I think this movie was just middle of the road. It was just bleh. Um, pretty much, we start off on Asgard. I'm gonna say right this: the film is directed by Kenneth Branagh, Mr. Shakespeare, and in terms of directing wise, great job because Branagh's a really good director. And in terms of the actual look and set design of Asgard, it looked pretty good. I like the look of Asgard. I love the look of Asgard. I would have liked to have stayed more on Asgard because the whole culture and everything that was about Asgard is more interesting to me than what actually happened in the movie. Because the majority of this film takes place on Earth, and it's kind of boring. Uh, Jane Foster, played by Natalie Portman, is just there. Eric Selvig, played by Stellan Skarsgård, is actually an interesting character, but he's not even remotely expanded upon. Of course, um, Selvig gets a lot more to do in the Avengers, but in this movie, he's just pretty much there as Jane's mentor, father figure type deal. And the whole thing of Thor having to appreciate life before he can go back to Asgard is cool in concept, but I think the execution was just lazily done. Uh, and I'll give an example why. The reason why Thor gets exiled is because he goes to this realm called Jotunheim to pick a fight with the Frost Giants because they invaded Asgard. He gets provoked into fighting, and because of that, the king of Jotunheim, Laufey, declares war on Asgard, and as a result, Thor's father, Odin, played by Hannibal Lecter himself, Anthony Hopkins, says, "You're unworthy to carry the throne of Thor. I must banish you to wherever you go." So, banished him because he wasn't worthy. And throughout the movie, Thor has to prove himself worthy. And in my view, he didn't really do a whole hell of a lot. Because, the main thing he did that was worthy was that he let the Destroyer kill him, and that was enough to give him back his, uh, power, I guess. It was okay, but I'd like to have seen more. I think him having the heroic death is just a cop out. Really, heroic death is enough to get you your powers back? I mean, come on. Do more that leads up to that. But you can kind of see it coming from a mile away. Because this movie really is by the numbers. And you can tell that this movie was rushed. They just wanted to rush this out just so that they can get to the Avengers. And it really shows. Because this thing is rushed. And a lot of relationships are mostly cliff notes. The whole thing with Jane and Thor is just rushed. It's a cliff note relationship. They don't get remotely enough screen time together to make me care. I mean, what they give is, it's cute. It's not horrible, but I would have liked to have seen more. The movie builds the fact that, Selvig and Jane have a father-daughter relationship, but they just say that in dialogue. They don't really show them really interacting in that sort of way. Uh, I would have liked to have seen more stuff on Asgard, particularly with Odin and Thor, but they didn't really touch on that. Of course, the real standout of this movie, and the one who actually is the most interesting, complex character, is Loki, played by Tom Hiddleston. he really is the best character because he finds out that he's adopted, that he's actually a frost giant, but Odin stole him from his cradle because he was discarded by Laufey, the king of the frost giants, and Odin took him in and raised him as his own. And of course, when Loki finds out, he's just torn about it. He's like, you could never had a frost giant on the throne of Asgard, which and I like the conflict within Loki because you can tell that it may not look it, but you can tell that he cares about Odin and he cares about Thor. But at the same time, you can also see that he's extremely jealous of Thor, and Loki always felt like he was a third wheel, and that he was always being looked over because of it. And of course, when he finds out that he was really Laufey's son, it just furthers his course into villainy. And I like Loki in this movie. I like the things that he does. He inadvertently puts Odin in the Odin sleep. He pretty much lies to Thor, saying that your dad is dead and you can't come back. He outright pretty much is going to, his whole thing is to just erase Jotunheim. He kills Laufey just as he's about to kill Odin, and to further his deception. So Loki definitely is the better character and the most memorable character in this movie. And after seeing what happens to him in the Avengers really after seeing what happens in the Avengers, this is Loki at his most intimidating because in the Avengers, I'll cover that when I get to it. But anyway, so we get to the end of the movie. Loki and Thor have the big fight scene. Loki, falls into this wormhole thing, and of course, Thor is torn up about it. It's like, oh, I can't believe my brother. I can't find him. Where is he? And of course, the end credits. We see that Loki is actually on Earth-ish because we see there's a scene shot in the post credits where Salvig is talking to Samuel L. Jackson, and Samuel L. Jackson reveals the Tesseract, which is the MacGuffin that plays a role in the upcoming Avengers, because essentially Loki and the Tesseract have a lot. Well, when I get to that, I'll be able to clarify more better because I know it's sounding very muddled as I talk about it, because I don't want to talk about the Avengers because I'm not there yet. But just know that the Tesseract plays a part in the Avengers and in Loki in general. And of course, Loki, says, well, isn't that something? The Tesseract, I need it. So we get all that. So yeah, this has been a very lackluster review because this is a very lackluster movie. All in all, I'm going to give Thor a 6.5 out of 10. It's just above average. It's nothing to write home about. It's entertaining, but at the same time, it's like not going to rock your world. So 6.5 out of 10 is all this one deserves. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Thor marks the conclusion of all the setup movies. And of course, our next review is going to be the big coming together of all these characters. As next time, we're going to look at the Avengers and see if, 6-7 years later, the film still holds up to how it was when it first came out. But until then, I will see you guys next time.